Welcome, folks, to the episode number 61 of the No Conference for Old Men podcast where three old guys are talking Houston Cougars basketball with a bit of Big 12 coverage added in as well, and proud members of the GoCoogs.com network, the undisputed number one Cougars content provider. We're here today again with all three of the old men: Tom Lydiak, former coach; Bill Walker, former player; and myself, Steve Chang, analytics guy, for this episode. Well, we've got a jam-packed episode today, folks, with our annual, what we call the Combo Big 12 and National Preview episode. Though our men's Cougars teams have actually already won their first game over Lehigh, we're going to hold off on starting our game summaries this year until after Game 2 versus Towson this coming Saturday. We actually think this will make for maybe a little bit more well-informed discussion at that point, especially with so many of the new key contributors on this year's team. So we're going to focus on our rapid-fire Big 12 team previews with some quick snippets for each team and our Big 12 projections for this season, and end with what we've called our national top 8+1 list, zeroing in on who we believe are going to be the national championship contenders with our elite 8 teams plus one more, just to make sure we cover off all the teams the Cougs will need to focus on in our minds. So let's get right into it, guys. Okay, now for our Big 12 regular season conference standings for this season, we did our own rankings, and we've got kind of a combined consensus list at this point that I sent to both you guys. There's unanimity amongst the three of us around who the top 7 teams are this season in the Big 12, and these are the teams that we all agree could challenge for potentially a Final Four bid. In our top 7, I guess it's just minor differences in our rankings, with me being a bit higher on Arizona and Tom being a bit higher on Kansas. But I will note that self-proclaimed master prognosticator, old man Bill Walker, was spot on in his top 7, with his picks exactly mirroring our consensus top 7 in the Big 12. And I'm sure we're going to hear about that fact from Bill throughout this episode. So,
of course.
Now, no surprise. All three of us had Houston as number 1 in the Big 12. And in our last episode, we went in depth on our Cougars. So folks can go back to listen to episode number 60 to get the down low on our Cougs. But before we get to our full rankings, we wanted to first cover off what we're calling the bottom 4, which was UCF, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona State. So to get the bottom feeders basically out of the way. So let's take these 4 as a group and quickly give some quick insights. And Bill, why don't you kick us off on kind of those last 4 teams?
Okay. I'm sorry. Tell me again who we have as the consensus last 4.
Yeah, we had UCF, Colorado, right, Utah, and Arizona State.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, before I get started, let me congratulate our most recent podcast guest, Coach Mitchell, for winning his opening game for the U of H women.
Great point. Yeah.
Off to a great start. So congratulations on the win.
Yeah.
Okay, number 16, I have Central Florida. And I had them rated higher last year. And for every school I get to, I'll mention how many starters are returning and for better or worse. And for my opinion, definitely worse due to NIL.
Yeah.
These starter numbers, for the most part, are going to pretty much be 0 or 1. UCF has nobody returning, and I have one sentence written down: this will not be a good team.
No. Agreed.
And that's about all I have to say for Central Florida.
Okay.
Arizona State, I have at 15. Bobby Hurley, we know, is a head coach. It's the final year of his contract, and I'm quite sure it's his final year at ASU. He likes his largely small school recruits. I don't particularly like them. I'm not too impressed. So I see them at 15. 14, I have Colorado. Tad Boyle, I like, decent coach, one returning starter. He did a lot of recruiting. This is going to be a deep team. They've got a lot of scorers, a lot of shooters, but the defense is going to be problematic, and I just don't see them being all that competitive. And then number 13 for me is Utah, and 0 returning starters.
Yeah.
Again, new head coach Alex Jensen, who's coming from the NBA, although as opposed to the other coach that came from the NBA, which is
the Wonderkin,
Keith Young at
Yeah.
BYU. I actually like Alex Jensen. I think
really.
I think this is going to be a tough first year for him, but I like him, and I think that they're going to be bad, but I do think they will be semi-competitive against certain teams. Probably not us with our defense, but I think they'll get better. So those are my bottom 4.
All right, interesting. Hey Tom, how about you for the bottom 4?
I have Arizona State dragging up the bottom. I think Bobby Hurley is a dead coach walking.
Yeah.
I know they won their first game of the season. I can't remember who they beat, but I think he's a little more upbeat than he was last year. He lost pretty much the entire roster. That can be good or bad depending on how you look at it, and he tried to fill it with some decent scores at the mid-major level. But I don't know if Bobby Hurley will even make it through the whole season before maybe they just have somebody else fill out as an interim the rest of the way. I have a note written here. They probably should have some Vegas odds on who's the first player to quit at Arizona State.
No kidding.
Because Jamie Hollingsworth went to the exhibition and he sat right behind Arizona State's bench, and he said all Hurley and the staff did, they didn't do any teaching or coaching. They did a bitch at the officials, the whole game. And that's an exhibition game. What's the purpose of an exhibition? Is to get better, and whatever. It's not to exactly win, but I guess he was all gung-ho on that. At 15, I have Utah. Like Bill mentioned, Alex Jensen coming from the NBA. Jensen played under Rick Majerus. He has no college head coach experience, but he did have 4 years as an associate coach under Majerus at St. Louis University. The thing about Utah is they don't even have a home court advantage anymore. Us older guys remember back in the 70s and 80s, Utah basketball was everything to Utah back then. They packed the place out. They had some really good players, some really good teams. They have a little bit of talent. Like ASU, they bring in some scores from the mid-major level. They did bring our Mr. Airplane from Auburn, Ja'Kai Howard, the guy who started the fight last year
when Auburn, on the plane.
When Auburn was on the way to play U of H, and he's also the one that was all over Twitter last year. Auburn played their first game, and he was the one that was bad body language as some of his teammates were throwing up shots. He was walking back and making a big scene about that. He's a talent, could be a distraction if things don't go his way. So all I got to say to Alex Jensen is good luck with him. 14, 14. I have Colorado. Could be the end of the Tad Boyle era too at Colorado. Unfortunately, he's a really good coach, but it's a new era of, as we all know, it's a new era of college basketball, and with roster upheaval and all this, he does have some couple of guys coming back. He has some big guys. That Bang got Doc, Elijah Moore. They're decent players. Sebastian Rancic from Slovakia. But he does have 10 newcomers. Got a couple of promising freshmen, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. And then for my 13th team, could be another coaching change in the Big 12 with Johnny Dawkins at UCF. Same question as Tad Boyle. He has a rebuilt roster. He's brought a couple of transfers in from Milwaukee, a couple more mid-major transfers, and a handful of high-major transfers. Probably the best one, Riley Kugel from Florida, Mississippi State, and Devin Cambridge. We know him from Texas Tech. But, Dawkins is a good coach. He just doesn't have the horses. And last year he had some good talent.
Got some athletes,
and they didn't do very well. So Now he's going to have less talent this year.
Yep.
So it could be his swan song at UCF.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, for me, it's bottom line. None of the four have what it takes to challenge for the top, or quite honestly, the middle, for that matter, of the Big 12. It's either bad or super new coaching in Utah's case, no talent to compete, and little to no investment on the NIL front with these four programs. And for me, ASU, bottom feeder and embarrassment to the league, should have fired Coach Hurley after last season. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So now moving on to our top 12 teams in the league. In our three-person consensus rankings, we have Texas Tech coming in at number 2, where both of you had them at number 2. And I was actually the dissenting vote here, and I'll get into that in a little bit. The number 2 ranking in the Big 12 is also consistent with the media's view from the preseason poll. Tom, why don't you kick things off and go with your coach's perspective on Tech?
I put Tech at 2 solely because of Grant McCasland.
Yeah, great coach.
Big 12 has great coaches. I mean, how can you not talk about great coaches and not talk about Bill Self? But Grant McCasland came from North Texas. He changed the style a little bit. North Texas, they were just like grind it out. They're going to beat you 58-53. Comes to Tech, and they're still a really good defensive team, but there's more offense now. You look at Tech; they bring back 2 really good players, JT Toppin and Christian Anderson, and they brought in some transfers. Lawan, I think his name is Lawan. I'm drawing a blank here. Watts from Washington State in Eastern Washington. He's a really good player. Mm-hmm. I did see they had 3 guys out for their first game. They didn't play without Watts. They didn't play without JT Toppin, and then they didn't play without the VCU transfer, the 6'10", 6'11", Bamga something Luke.
Yeah, they've got some injury issues to start the season.
Yeah. But from a coaching perspective, that's why I go with Tech, just because McCasland. But here's the deal: if they have one injury that it could derail their whole season because they're not going to be very deep.
Yeah.
So Toppin was injured a little bit last year too. So health is important to every team, but especially so with Tech. Like one of their top players goes down, they could lose a couple of games and then drop them further in the standings.
Okay, great. How about your view, Bill, from a player's perspective with Tech?
Well, I agree with Tom. I had a tough time with several of the top teams and how to rank them, but McCasland was the overriding factor in me putting Tech at 2. One starter back, which is the $4 million man Toppin, but Christian Anderson basically played starters minutes last year. He's a really good point guard. He could score. They brought in a lot of offense and not a lot of big players, but they brought in a great shooter from UNC Greensboro, Donovan Catwell. They brought in a 6'6", another great shooter, 6'6", Tyree Bryan from Santa Clara. You mentioned Watts, Tom, and then they brought in another shooting guard, Nolan Groves. He's a freshman. He's a 34 point per game scorer at Minnesota. So, they brought in a lot of shooters, perimeter players that they're not going to be especially big, but again, they're exceptionally well coached. So I think they end up second in the conference.
And I want to mention another guy that he actually played, I think, 34 minutes in their first game. He's a true freshman, Jalen Petty.
Yeah.
6'1", 6'1" guard. I'm not sure he was out of, but
he's from Washington, point guard.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem in the conference.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess for me, as I mentioned earlier, I was the dissenting vote here, and I actually had Tech a dramatically lower 5th in the Big 12 this coming season. I know. So just to be different, I guess. And I know both you guys and the national experts all had Tech with higher ranking at number 2, and I think some other pundits had them maybe at 3. And McCaslin, I agree, obviously a great coach, so it does seem a bit counterintuitive for me to have them 5th. But as I'm looking at the roster, and after paying top end, as you'd highlighted, Bill, it reported $4 million plus in NIL. There wasn't much for everyone else, and I just don't have as much trust in all the new players. I love Watts, but everyone else I think is a question mark. Everyone's high on Christian Anderson, and even the analytics support that because he was a player box score plus minus plus 5.9 last season. But if you look at our games, and that's the only reference point I really have that I watched a lot of his play, but he was terrible in both games versus us last season. So I'm just saying, yeah, we'll see. If you look at the analytics, Tech's top 20-ish in both adjusted offensive efficiency and adjusted defensive efficiency in Ken Palm's preseason advanced analytics rankings coming into the season. And Ken Palm this season also added what they call a new coaching metric that assigns value to each coach. And guess what? McCaslin was the second highest rated coach with the published rankings, and only bested by our very own Coach Sampson at number 1. But even with that, and with so many new pieces for Tech, they come in at 4th in the Big 12 in Ken Palm, 6th in Bart Torvik, 6th in Haslametrics, and 6th in Evan Miev. So you could argue that I've actually got them ranked a little bit too high at 5th. So we'll see how it. No, too high because they have them at 6th, right? So I've got. Yeah, Ken Palm's got them at 4th, but Bart Torvik, Haslametrics, and Evan Miev, I have them 6th in the Big 12. So we'll see. We'll see. Quite honestly, I think, as you had stated earlier on, Bill, it's tough this year. I think it's going to be a great year in conference where from 4 to 6, it's going to be super competitive, and they'll all be good enough to actually compete for a Final Four. Now, number 3 in our consensus was Iowa State, where all 3 of us had them either 3rd or 4th. Bill, why don't you go first with your player's perspective on the Cyclones?
Well, State has 3 starters returning, which is a little unusual. and I like Oxelberger. I think he's a good coach. Of course, he comes from Wisconsin, so he's got to be good. They're returning who a lot of people would suggest is the best point guard in the conference, Tamin Lipsey, coming back for his senior year. They've also got Joshua Jefferson, who averaged 13 and 7.5 boards, 6'9", kind of combo forward, more of a small forward. And then the guy who put the dagger in our heart at the end of the game at Ames a couple years ago. Yeah, I know. Milan Mamsilovic.
Yeah.
The 40% 3-point shooter, but they're probably, and I didn't look to see their box score from their opening game, but I imagine that Nate Heiss is probably going to be the starting 2 guards, 6'5".
He started.
He did okay. Yeah, I mean, he was over a 41% 3-point shooter last year. I mean, he's a deadly shooter, and so he's a good player. They brought in a big guy who a lot of people are high on. I'm not entirely sure why. Blake Buchanan from Virginia. He's 6'10", big, but quite honestly, he's just big. he's just kind of average. But they've brought in a lot of players. Let's see, Damin Yakis played a 6'11" as a 4-star from Germany. Let's see, Dominic Nelson, a 6'5" 2-guard from Utah Valley. He was the WAC Player of the Year last year. He's not a shooter, but he can do
score
everything. Yeah, and then of course I've got to mention 3 guys. Jamarian Bateman, first of all, 6'3" shooting guard from, of course, Milwaukee, who's an absolute consensus 4-star. He's the 7th best combo guard in the country. He averaged 25.5 points in high school, but he's a really good defensive player.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he went like 0 for 7 in the exhibition game. The freshman,
Did he?
the 4-star. Yeah, he got his
Well,
minutes, but yeah.
well, once again, and I could relate this back to the U of H game and all the people that are
Yeah.
crying because U of H only won by 18. It's game one.
Yeah,
Lighten up.
yeah.
Not you, but
No.
everyone
I get
who's
it.
complaining. They also brought in a 6'6" small forward from Oshkosh North in Wisconsin, Xavier Mitchell. He averaged 35 a game in high school. And then I'll just mention him. He's probably not going to get much time, but a kid from, God, I can't even remember his name. A kid from Brookfield Central, backup point guard. But the other good freshman they brought in is a kid named Killian Toure, and he's 6'3" guard. He's a good defensive player as well. He and Bateman are good defensive players, and so yeah, Iowa State's going to be deep. They've got 3 starters back. I could easily see them challenging Tech for the second
I agree.
best team in the conference, but they'll be very good again, better than they were last year when they kind of fell apart.
Yeah, I agree. How about you, Tom? You're the Iowa guy. What's your take on Iowa State?
I have Iowa State 4. TJ Otzelberger, coaching, coaching's worth something. And TJ's teams are always tough. They play good defense. Last year was almost kind of an aberration because there were some games where the defense wasn't good, and they lost some scores, and that might be the place where you can pinpoint the blame. They lost Keyshawn Gilbert and Curtis Jones as far as scores go. Bill mentioned the 3 starters. So one thing I think everybody's going to have to keep an eye on is Tamin Lipsey's health.
Yeah,
he's already been injured in I think it was September. He was out like 4 to 6 weeks. He's been injured a lot in his career, so that's a big concern for their season. Momcilovic, really good player. Joshua Jefferson, came from what was it, St. Mary's, really good player.
Yeah,
and they actually had and then Blake Buchanan, he's like a banger, from Virginia.
That's right.
They actually started Toure, the freshman. He was the 5th starter. So I just think Iowa State's whole season, I think, is going to be dependent upon keeping Tamin Lipsey healthy, because they have decent talent, and they got Otts, and they'll be a tough out when you play in Hilton every game.
Yeah, for me, I actually almost put Iowa State's second best team in the conference. Really, really close. It was a toss-up for me. And that's really how much I trust Otzelberger. But kept them third, with my only concern being scoring. And I'm thinking both Lipsey and Momcilovic will pick up the slack there. And I'm actually expecting Dominic Nelson, as you had highlighted, Bill, from Utah Valley, to also really contribute on the scoring front. ISU's top 40-ish in adjusted offensive efficiency and top 2 in adjusted defensive efficiency in their preseason KenPom advanced analytics ratings coming into the season. And Coach Otzelberger is actually the 24th highest rated coach in KenPom with their new metric. What this results in is ISU coming in at 3rd in the Big 12, according to KenPom, 5th in the Big 12, according to Bart Torvik, 3rd from Haslem Metrics, and 4th by Evan Mia. So I like where I've got them at 3rd, and I think we've got them well placed, and we'll see if they can stay healthy. Now, number 4 in our consensus was BYU, where all 3 of us had them at either 4 or 5. Tom, why don't you kick things off from a coach's view around BYU?
Well, when you talk about BYU, I think you got to talk about 2 people. One is their head coach, Kevin Young, a.k.a. I call him the Wonderkind, because I think he came into the college game a little bit arrogant, with his NBA background or whatever. But like I always said, Kelvin Sampson had an NBA background. Kelvin coached 5 years in the NBA. So we'll see what type of learning curve, Coach Young has. And then the second person, when you mentioned BYU, is AJ DeBonsa. he's just going to be here for a cup of coffee, and then he's going to be the first or second pick in the NBA draft. And then you got Richie Saunders coming back. That's a good piece to have. Also, the other key addition was Robert Wright III from Baylor.
Baylor, yeah.
But Baylor, when we played them last year, I don't know. There's only one basketball, and I just don't know how all that's gonna gel. They did get a transfer from Southern Illinois, a guy named Kennard Davis. He's like 6'6", and then they have Kiba Kieta in the middle.
Yep.
He's he's pretty good defensive player. He gives them some presence inside defensively.
Yeah, he had a good first game.
I wonder about BYU's depth though. That's the thing. They only played in their first game the other day against Villanova. They only played 8 guys in the game, and one of those guys only played 6 minutes. So they basically played 7 guys. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on too. If BYU injuries, are they going to get run down as the season goes on?
I don't think so, because they don't play defense. So it's like half the game they're not playing. So.
True. And Dabansa, he is a freshman. So playing at home, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Maybe playing on the road is going to be a totally different story when you get these true freshmen. I don't care how good they are.
Hey, don't talk negatively about freshmen.
Yeah, that's true. We're going to be counting on 3 of them. So.
Yeah, but they're not. They're looking at AJ Dabansa to be everything. Chef, cook, bottle washer, the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, great insights. How about you, Bill, from a player's perspective? What's your take on BYU?
Yeah, 2 starters back. Saunders, who is a really good shooting guard, 6'5" shooting guard, and Keita, the 6'9" center, and he's a beast on the defensive end. You mentioned Robert Wright. I think that's a really good addition.
It is
a really good addition. I mean, he's not a ball hog, anything like that. He is a great passer, and he likes to pass the ball and move it around. So that's good. You mentioned Kennard Davis from Southern Illinois, the 6'6" guard. He is actually not a great offensive player. He is a great defender. So I was impressed that they brought him in.
I agree.
And then of course you've got Dabansa, the 6'9" small forward, who it could be a race between him and what's his name, Peterson from Kansas for the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
But 2 Big 12 players. Yeah, Dabansa is going to be good. I'm not sure he's a great perimeter shooter. Good, not great. So we'll see. But he can, at 6'9", he can put the ball on the floor almost like a point guard and get to the basket. And super talented. It's interesting. BYU does have a pretty deep bench, even though they didn't play them. And not surprisingly, they recruited a lot of great shooters. Dawson Baker, a 6'4" guard from Cal Irvine. Got a guy, 6'10" shooter, Mikhailo Boscovich, 6'10". He's a 6'10" small forward and shoots well. They brought in Idaho's best player, Tyler Mikas, 6'7" shooting guard. Another great shooter, Nate Pickens from UC Riverside, and and then they brought in one other big guy, Xavion Staten, 6'11" freshman, highly rated freshman as well. From I think he may have gone to school with Dabansa. He may have gone to high school with Dabansa, and he's athletic and he's a shot blocker and a rebounder, not much of a scorer, but so they did bring in some defensive players, and I just think that the guy, who's essentially a legend in his own mind, Kevin Young, don't especially care for him. I know you two don't either, and so we'll see. BYU is my toughest choice in terms of where to rank them, because they could be really good, and then again they could be okay, or they could just be good. So yeah, I had them at 4.
Yeah, it's funny. It's right. All the voters are really high on BYU, so we'll actually higher than us, right? Higher than we are on BYU.
Yeah,
and we've got them already pretty high at 4, right, in the conference.
They look at these early games and they look at pretty offense, and that's what they look at, and they just wait till the grind hits.
Yeah,
they had a pretty low scoring opening game with Villanova, but again, it's the opening game. Big deal.
Yeah. And I thought they played decent defense in that game too. So that's always a good sign. So like you guys both highlighted, super talented team. Debanza being the kid that everyone's watching. It highlighted. Yes, I'm completely with you guys. I'm not a fan of Coach Young, but I will also admit that I was super impressed with Coach Young in year 1 in the Big 12, because I thought they were just going to get smashed, because being from the NBA and in kind of the G League, not used to playing the kind of D that you see in the Big 12. So I actually think he adjusted well very quickly. So I think he's a super coach, even though I may not like his personality. BYU's top 10-ish in adjusted offensive efficiency, no surprise, and top 50-ish in adjusted defensive efficiency in their preseason KenPom ratings coming into the season. What this really results in is BYU coming in at 5th in the Big 12 based on KenPom, 2nd in the Big 12 based on Bart Torvik, 5th in Haslam metrics, and then for Evan Mia, he's also got them 5th in the Big 12. So I think we've got them in roughly the right spot at 4th. Now, at 5th in our consensus was Kansas, and this was where we had a difference where Tom had them 3rd and really the highest ranked amongst the 3 of us. But Bill, why don't you go ahead and start first with your takes from a player's perspective?
Well, the reason I have Kansas 5th is because of their recent history. They bring in a lot of players, and that they don't seem to gel. They don't seem to mesh. And Kansas has been quite a bit of an underachiever recently, really kind of mediocre, and especially mediocre in the Big 12 on the road. And with 0 returning starters, we'll see what happens. We'll see if all the new players can play well together, and especially how well they'll play when they are on the road. The one player that everybody wants to talk about and should talk about is Darren Peterson, the 6'5" combo guard, possibly the number 1 pick.
Yep.
I heard Self say that he's seen him do things in practice that he's never seen any other player do in the entire time that he's been in basketball. So
crazy.
Incredibly talented player, and we'll see what he can do to not only be extremely productive, but to help the rest of the team, because again, it's a brand new team. Their other guard is going to be, his name is Melvin Council. He came from St. Bonaventure. He is not a great offensive player. He could score. He could get to the basket. He is not a shooter at all, but he can play defense as well. They've got a small forward named Cole Rosario, and they actually brought him in late. He reclassified from the class of 26, consensus 5-star, and Kansas got him late. He's about 6'5", swingman, small forward, really good shooter. They brought in a power forward, a 6'7" power forward named Trey White. He's been all over the place. Illinois, Louisville, Florida. Well, I take it back, not Florida, just Illinois and Louisville. He's coming in. He's a banger. And then of course the guy that almost played starters minutes, Flory Badunga.
Yeah, he's really good.
6'9", 220. He'll take over for Hunter Dickinson, man the middle. Yeah, those guys are going to play a lot. They've also got, and I'm not going to go through any of the names, but 9 reserves, and they pretty much cover every position. They've got a couple former 5 stars included in that group of 9. This is, I'd say, between this team and Kentucky, probably the deepest teams in the country, even though Kansas didn't play a whole lot in their opening game. But this is a wildly deep team. And again, I've just got them at 5 because over the last few years they haven't been especially good. They've definitely not been good on the road, and Kansas has a recent history of bringing in a lot of new players, and they've just not they've just not gotten it done. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. How about you, Tom? I'm really curious. You have them number 3, and what's the reason behind that?
I'm going to get real technical here. You could put teams 2 through 6 in a hat and just draw names out of a hat and put them 2 through 6.
Season.
So, so Kansas. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Tom, with your love of Kansas, I thought you would have either had them ahead of us to be
16?
number 1, or maybe you'd have them at 15 or 16.
Yeah. If you listen to the podcast, I'm not a big fan of Kansas basketball, but a couple of reasons I picked them at 3rd. First one, it's a 2-word answer: Hunter Dickinson. He's gone. That was actually 4 words. He's gone. Addition by subtraction. I'm giving Bill Self, he's had like 2 mulligans. We'll see this 3rd year. If he doesn't get it done with this group, then, I'm not sure what's going to be the deal. But, and seriously, again, another reason I put them a little bit higher is they play the top 5 teams. They get them all at home. And we know Kansas, their last couple of years, they've been front runners at home. They play their best games at home. And then then they're like possums. They play dead on the road, and they don't play near as tough or energetic or whatever on the road. But yeah, good question why I had them that high. But that's kind of what I was thinking. Like I said, you look at these teams 2 through 6, and it's every day I could have came up with a different order.
Yeah.
And I probably did. But Bill, I think, covered all the personnel on there, and it looks like they started Trey White, Darren Peterson, Cole Rosario, and Melvin Council to go with Badunga in the first game. Rosario's interesting. He's a freshman. We'll see. He's just wildly athletic too. If you ever saw or remember Christian Braun playing, think of Christian Braun. Good shooter, athletic. That's who he reminds me of.
Very cool.
He wowed the people at Midnight Madness with some like incredible dunks, and then you got El Marco Jackson. He's a former 5-star. He's on the bench. So we'll just have to see. I'm not rooting for Kansas. I don't care whether they finish 3rd, but that's where I think they're going to finish. Actually, I hope I'm wrong. They finish like 8th or 9th.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny that you say that because I feel exactly the same way. Not so much about their team, but about their fans, and have certainly alluded to this before, and that would be Tech. So I have them at 2, but I'm certainly hoping that they finish 15th or 16th.
They can be an insufferable lot, man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, so another superstar freshman in Darren Peterson, like you guys had highlighted, and with arguably the best coach in the country now, supposedly back fully healthy himself. So it could be a comeback year, but I had them 6th because I don't trust the pieces around Peterson. KU's top 30-ish in adjusted offensive efficiency and top 10 in adjusted defensive efficiency in their preseason Ken Palm rankings coming into the season. And Coach Self is the 20th highest rated coach in the Ken Palm metric now as well. And what this means is KU comes in at 6th in the Big 12 according to Ken Palm, 4th according to Bart Torvik, 4th in Haslem metrics as well in the Big 12, and then 3rd according to Evan Mia for the Big 12. So I think, yeah, we'll see. I mean, you could be right, Tom. They could be coming in again 3rd. Now, number 6 in our consensus was Arizona. And again, I'm the outlier here with Arizona. Tom, you go ahead with your coach's perspective on Arizona.
Oh, Arizona, Tommy Lloyd, really, really good coach, is able to attract really, really good talent. Their game the other day when they played Florida, they actually started 3 freshmen. If you consider Brandon Burries the guard, we were I think interested in him.
Yep.
Koa Pete, it came down to either Chris Sinak or Koa Pete, and then we ended up. I think Chris Sinak, I think committed to us, and then Koa Pete then went to Arizona. And then I don't know if you can consider this guy a freshman, but he's Ivan or Ivan Korchenkov, born in Moscow, so he's Russian, but he spent most of his life in Germany. He started playing in the Euro League when he was 12 years old. So he's played, I think, Euro ball for 7 years, but technically, he's a freshman. But they started those 3 freshmen in their first game to go along with Jaden Bradley and the 7'2" Lithuanian, Krivas, who was injured all of last year. That's why I probably had Arizona down a little bit because of they're going to be playing with a lot of young guys, and they beat Florida in the first game, but traditionally that's kind of how Arizona plays at the first of the year. They they
impress the hell out of everyone, right?
Last year was an anomaly. They started 6-5, but
True.
It's they play pretty basketball. They're enjoyable to watch because it seems like everybody has a green light and they push it up fast and all that. But you know how it is once conference starts, games kind of grind down a little bit, and it doesn't seem they're as successful playing that kind of style. And we know Kelvin's a master at tempo. Teams are going to play, to our tempo. Just don't get in a shootout with Arizona.
How about you, Bill? What's your take on Arizona? You also have them 6th.
I've got them 6th. They've got a couple starters back. They lost. They lost Trey Townsend. They lost Caleb Love, and he's the one that I'm curious to see how he's replaced, because while he was a hit or miss player in a lot of games, you have games where he'd go 1 of 12 from 3, but he'd also hit big shots when they needed him, and he was the guy they looked to. So we'll see who they look to from the perimeter going forward. They got Jaden Bradley back, who I really like at guard, point guard. You mentioned a couple of the guys, or you mentioned pretty much all the guys, Tom. Krivas, I really like. He missed virtually all of last year with a stress fracture, and so he's back, 7'2" Lithuanian. And then you've got Karchnikov, who you also mentioned, and mentioned how much he's played at Bayern Munich, and he's going to be a really good player. And then, of course, you got the 2 freshmen, Pete, who scored 30 against Florida, and Burries, who was looking at us until just like Pete, they committed with Arizona. I think this is a really, really strong starting 5, but this team is not deep. And they had a nice win over Florida, but I wonder if they wear down over the season. I mean, they've got other players, but not nearly to the level of the 5 that are starting, and
yeah, that's
so
true.
They're gonna need some of their average bench players to step up. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of minutes for the starters. And if they suffer any injuries, if Krivas were to get hurt again, I just think there's some question marks there, potential question marks, and so that's why I've got Arizona at 6.
Okay. For me, I've got a soft spot for Coach Lloyd and the whole Gonzaga style of play. Plus, as you guys had highlighted, I love the 2 freshmen in Koa Pete and Braden Burries because they were good enough to be on our initial list of kids that UH was interested in. So I had them number 2 in my Big 12 rankings. Arizona's top 10 in adjusted offensive efficiency and top 20 in adjusted defensive efficiency in their preseason KenPom advanced analytics ratings coming into the season. What this results in is Arizona comes in at number 2 in the Big 12, according to KenPom. They come in 3rd in the Big 12 based on Bart Torvik, 2nd in Haslam Metrics, and 2nd in Evan Mia. So I don't know, guys. I'm feeling pretty good about my number 2 versus your number 6, but I think everything you guys highlighted is spot on. They're not deep, I guess, and so it'll be curious if they stay healthy. They could be really good, but we'll see. Now, number 7, our consensus was Baylor, where all 3 of us had them there. Bill, you go ahead with your player's perspective on Baylor.
Okay. One thing I want to mention before Baylor is I looked at we talked about it the other night when the 3 of us were having dinner about the schedules, and it's amazing. I didn't take it wholly into account, actually not that much into account. I probably should have a little more when I was doing the rankings, but yeah, BYU has one out of the top 7 teams has one road game in conference at Tech, and then they've got 4 at home. Only five good conference games. Arizona, same thing. They've only got 5 conference good games, 3 of which are on the road. U of H, and I won't go through everyone, but U of H I have as the worst conference schedule of the 7 teams. We play 8 of the good teams and 5 on the road, and it's exactly the same for Tech, which is ironic because I've got them as my 1 and 2 teams. But they've definitely got the toughest schedules, and BYU just seems
pure coincidence, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out. But getting back to Baylor, and I've told you guys, I've got Baylor at 7, but I thought about ranking them higher. I think they could be good this year. They
you mentioned that at the game.
Scott Drew took the entire team over to play in the World University Games, and they played very, very well. They lost to Spain in the finals, but I think that's going to bode well for them. That it wasn't simply some exhibitions and practicing over the summer, that they actually went and played. They were together. They traveled together. They played in a big European tournament and did well. With that said, they've got 0. Not surprising because nobody returns much, but 0 returning starters. Scott Drew, however, who I like, had the 16th rated transfer class. So a lot of good transfers coming in. The best one, almost for sure, is Cameron Carr, a 6'5" shooting guard. He's coming from Tennessee. He was the 2nd leading scorer for Baylor in the World University Games. Really good player. The other guy the other guard who I think is going to be their key player is Obi Agbin, 6'3" point guard coming in from Wyoming, and him taking over for Wright, I think is going to be key. And if he plays well, then I like Baylor. Tunde Yusufu, he's the 5-star shooting guard that they brought in. He's very talented. He was the California high school. He set the all-time California high school scoring record. So yeah, there's he's going to be one to watch. And then they brought in, I'll just mention one other guy, Dan Skillings, who seems like he's in maybe his 30th year of college.
Yeah.
We all know him from his days at Cincinnati, 6'6" small
yeah.
forward. So yeah, a lot of new players for Baylor, but I like Scott Drew. I love their backcourt. I love the scorers. Their front court scoring and even their front court defense is going to be a bit more of a challenge. And losing Robert Wright is tough, but I just think that with the experience they got over the summer with Scott Drew, and I like the players they brought in, I've got them at 7, but I could easily see them usurping, Kansas for sure, and maybe Arizona as well.
Wow.
We'll see.
Okay. I'll have to remember that one as we go through the season.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Tom, how about your coach's view on Baylor?
I have Baylor at 7, as well. And the reason I didn't have them any higher is because, the whole roster, not just part of it, the whole roster had to be rebuilt. They lost every single player. So, and one thing I don't get is Scott Drew, he won a national championship just 4 years ago. It's like, what's going on in Baylor? Does he got cooties or what? I mean, they're, it's just been a revolving door past couple of years, and then you get your 5-star guard who plays 1 year and then goes to the NBA. He's had this is like the third straight, I think, one he's had. So we'll see. I mean, you never know when you assemble a whole new team and throw them in the mix. What you're going to get. It's just it's like a grab bag, of players. No roster retention. So I'd say 7, the highest I would rank. I would rank Baylor.
Oh, interesting.
You'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I've got him this high at number 7 as well, strictly because of freshman Yusufu and Coach Drew. But everyone's new on the rosters you guys has highlighted, so I don't have faith in the pieces fitting in that well together. Baylor's coming in at top 20 in adjusted offensive efficiency and top 30-ish in adjusted defensive efficiency in their preseason KenPom ratings. And what this means is Baylor comes in at 7th in the Big 12 according to KenPom, 8th in the Big 12 according to Bart Torvik, 7th according to Haslametrics, and 8th in Evan Mia. So I think there's a lot of agreement in kind of where we've got them at 7th. Now, coming in at number 8, and we need to pick up the pace a little bit here, guys, for the rest of these. We've got consensus with Cincinnati, where we all had them 8th or 9th. Tom, you go ahead with your coach's perspective on Cincy.
Could be Wes Miller's last year if they don't make the tournament. So good defensive team. We'll see if will have enough scoring. It's kind of way Cincinnati's been the past couple of years. I'd say probably one of the most disappointing teams in the Big 12, if not the most disappointing team. So the pressure on Wes Miller is going to be tremendous if they don't make the tournament. And my guess is, they'll be looking for another coach if he doesn't get him there. I don't think they'll make it. I don't think they'll be in March Madness.
Oh, you don't think so?
Mm-mm.
How about you, Bill, from a player's perspective on Cincy?
After the top 7, I've only got 2 other Big 12 teams that I think are potential NCAA tournament teams. I've got Cincy at number 9, and yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I do like Wes Miller, but I know it's the pressure's on. They've got 1 starter back, Day Thomas, and he may have a much better year because they got rid of Jizzle James, who, from what I have read and understand, was a complete headache, and he didn't transfer; they released him. They've got. I'll just mention a couple of new players. One is probably going to be their leading scorer. His name is Baba Miller. He started out at Florida State, but he's played the last 2 years at FAU. He's 6'9", power forward, but he can score. Good player. The other one is 7'2" center, Mustafa Thiam, and he's going to be a problem in the middle, especially defensively for a lot of teams, but he can't score as well. I just don't think they've got enough to in the end to crack the top 7 for sure. And they're going to need some additional players beside the 3 that I mentioned to step up for them to make the tournament.
Yeah. I mean, just like you guys, I like Coach Miller as well. Love his team's tenacity on D. They just can't seem to score enough each year. But I'm hopeful with a number 8 ranking that we're coming up with this season that it holds, and it's actually an NCAA tourney team. Basically, if you look at the advanced analytics, Ken Palm's got them 8th in the Big 12. Bart Torvik's got them 7th in the Big 12. Metrics has got them 8th in the Big 12, and then Evan Mia has them 7th. So I think there's a good chance at this point for Cincy to actually join March Madness, because I'm expecting a good 8 or 9 teams in this season. Now, number 9, our consensus was Kansas State. Tom, why don't you go ahead with, or actually, was it Bill? Is it your turn to go first?
Bill's turn.
Okay, Bill. K-State.
I've got K-State at 10.
Yep.
One returning starter. Tang, I don't like Jerome Tang. I don't think he's a good coach. So that's part of the reason I've got them at 10. You guys may disagree with me. They did bring in some good players, but I'm not entirely sure that they're good team players. The number 1, of course, would be PJ Haggerty. He was Memphis's leading scorer, assists, 6'4" shooting guard, really talented player, but I'm not sure that great team player makes the players around him much better. And then Abdi Bashir, 6'7" forward, a great shooter, really great shooter from Monmouth. And then the third and last guy I'll mention is he was the Mid-American Player of the Year last year. And not only was he their Player of the Year, but he was the Defensive Player of the Year. That's 6'3" guard Nate Johnson. He could end up being better than Haggerty and being their best player.
Oh, wow.
They're a relatively deep team, but I just question whether they're going to be a good team as opposed to being a team with a lot of good players. And I don't like Tang.
Oh, you don't.
I liked it when I was a kid. I liked Tang the drink, but I don't like Jerome Tang as a coach.
That shit was nasty. I hated it.
I liked it.
Hey, how about you, Tom, on Kansas State?
I think the best Kansas State can hope for is to be the best of the rest. Speaking of Jerome Tang, we're both North Shore high school graduates.
That's right.
But guess what? I scored a heck of a lot more points at North Shore than Tang did because he never made the team. So that's
probably
nice.
He's another North Shore guy. That's probably why I don't like him.
Probably. But you know what? We played in different eras too.
Yeah.
So anyway,
obviously you played in the better era, right?
Yes, exactly. You're looking at Tang saying, I got the best point guard in the country. I got the best 3-point shooter in the country. I got the best athlete in the country. He didn't say we were the best coach team in the country. But you know what? If you got the best and all the, like Galen said on the show the other day, go out and prove it, dude. Go out and prove it. I think Tang's another one that could be moving along after the seasons. I don't think he'll get fired, but I think he'll probably start looking for other jobs. So they're right there. They'll be on the cusp. But I think along with Cincinnati and making the tournament, it's probably going to come down to who's on the committee. And whether they like product A or product B.
I will say this about Tang: he went out and brought in a couple of new coaches, one of whom was an assistant with him at Baylor, and then another one that he's known for a long time. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were on the Baylor title team.
Yep.
But yeah, I just don't think he's a good coach.
Yeah. Wow. I actually like Coach Tag. I actually gave him credit for kind of the tougher D on the Baylor national championship team, but I haven't seen it with his own team, so I may have been wrong. I actually think this year's team makeup of players at K-State is much more conducive to winning with Haggerty and Bashir, but I am concerned about a lack of inside presence. Now, if you look at the advanced analytics, Ken Palm's got them coming in at 9th, actually, in the Big 12. Now, Bart Torvik has them 14th in the Big 12. Metrics has them 10th in the Big 12. And then Evan Mia has them 9th in the Big 12. So they're a little bit all over the place. So we're close, I'd say, right at number 9. Now, number 10, our consensus was West Virginia. And you're the highest on them, Bill. But I'll let Tom go first since it's his turn.
Like Grant McCaslin, their coach Ross Hodge, or is it Boss Hog? I don't know. One of the two. He comes from North Texas with, he was pretty successful at North Texas. He's also bringing in like a collection of mid-major transfers. I kind of liken this to what Ben McCullum at Iowa's doing. McCullum came from Drake. He's the new Iowa coach, and he's going to try to replicate at Iowa in the Big Ten what he did with Drake with similar players. I don't know if that's going to work. Same here in the Big 12. We'll just have to see. The games that they win, they're just going to have to be tougher. Toughest team every night when they play, in order for them to have a chance to win.
Yeah. So how about your take, Bill? You were the highest on West Virginia.
Yeah, I've got them at 8. Just like Baylor and like Kansas, many of the schools, 0 starters returning. So new team. But as opposed to Jerome Tang, I really, really like Ross Hodge. Yeah. I think he's a really good coach, and I think he's gonna win some games that they might otherwise have not won because of his coaching. Looks like the best player that he brought was one of his, Jasper Floyd, the 6'3" guard from North Texas. Really, really solid guard. They also brought in another very good point guard, Honor Huff from UT Chattanooga. And like you mentioned, Tom, a lot of mid-major players coming in. Trayson, Eagle Staff, 6'6" small forward, a really good player, good scorer from North Dakota. But like I said, I think, well, for me, it was West Virginia, Cincinnati will be competing for 8 and 9, and they're the two that I think are the bubble NCAA teams. I give West Virginia the edge because I like Hodge. I think he's a good coach. I think he'll get it done.
Nice. I'm in agreement with you on Coach Hodge from North Texas. I'm a big fan as well. I'm not sure they have the players to go higher than this. However, I will also admit that I felt like he did a really phenomenal job at assembling the roster in a very short period of time. Now, they're all mid-majors, as you guys had highlighted as well. So for me, this is actually going to be the most interesting team for me to follow in the Big 12 this season, because I think the coaching's there. The talent might be there if it translates to the Big 12. Now, if you look at the advanced analytics, Ken Palm's got them coming in at 10th in the Big 12. Bart Torvik also 10th. Metrics has them coming in at 11th in the Big 12. And then Evan Mia also 10th. So we're close to the advanced analytics here with them coming in at 11th. We have them coming in at 10, right? 10, I think. Yeah. And so
not all of us.
Yeah. Not all of us. Now, for our consensus 11th, we've got TCU. And Bill, why don't you go first?
Okay. And incidentally, we led off with 4 teams that aren't going to make the NCAAs, aren't going to be competitive. I think it's more like 6. So these next 2, I think, have 0 shot at the NCAAs and 0 shot at finishing in the top half of the Big 12. The child actor Jamie Dixon, I do think is a solid coach. They've only got one starter back, by the way. A lot of people saw that they lost their opening game to New Orleans, but once again, big deal. It's game one, exactly. This is going to be a very guard heavy team. You know, a lot of newcomers, so it's going to take a little time, and that was the case on Monday when they lost at home. But you know, a lot of people are down on them, especially I read a lot after that first game. But I think this team's going to be okay. I don't think they're going to, like I said, I don't think they're going to compete for certainly the top 7-8 in the Big 12, and no chance at the NCAAs. But they'll get better as the season goes on.
Yeah. How about you, Tom? What do you think of TCU?
Well, it's interesting that Bill mentioned Jamie Dixon being a child actor, because I think he'll be in front of the camera again next year as a TV analyst. I don't think
he'll maybe right.
Yeah.
You know, he's had a good run. He's a heck of a coach.
Yeah.
But these last couple of years haven't been good,
kind.
you know, and it just seems like, you know, he's the the mouse or whatever, the rabbit on the turnstile, just going around and around. Last couple of years, it's the same old story every year. You know, lose your roster, try to rebuild. Even though it appears though he might be trying to build some homegrown talent, because two of their starters, played there last year. David Punch and what's his name, Micah Robinson, were home. I'd say homegrown talents because they played there as freshmen. But I don't know, just kind of the same old story with TCU, like it's been last 2 years. I don't think they make the tournament either.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, I was a big fan of Coach Dixon from his days at Pitt, and I loved his willingness to adapt to a much quicker pace at TCU when his old style just wasn't working. But I'm not sure, quite honestly, what he's trying to do with this team this season. So he gets even number 11th from me strictly because of coaching. Now, if you look at the advanced analytics, Ken Palm's got them 15th, basically second to last in the Big 12. Bart Torgovic's got them 11th in the Big 12. Haslametrics has got them 9th. And then Evan Mia has them 12th in the Big 12. So the advanced analytics are actually all over the place with TCU. So we'll see. Now, number 12 in our consensus was Oklahoma State, with all three of us having them at 12. And so, Tom, why don't you give your coach's view on them quickly as well? They
might be a team to be interesting to watch, because they might just blow up on live TV. They got a volatile mix of players. They have a guy that came from Doug Gottlieb's Green Bay team that he didn't play enough games, but he led the nation in scoring. But he's been to like 4 schools, and they got another guy that's been to like 3. Just a volatile mix of players, and in my opinion, that doesn't bode too well, because you get players like that. The first, there's going to be adversity, and a lot of times the first little adversity they hit, instead of trying to be tough and fight through it, they start pointing fingers and play the blame game and all this. And I could see that happening at Oklahoma State this year.
How about you, Bill, from a player's perspective?
I put Oklahoma State at 12, but I could have easily had them at 13 or 14. That was kind of a toss-up. The reason I had them at 12 is because I do like Steve Lutz.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's a very good coach. They've got one starter back. They do have a pretty highly rated transfer class in terms of the players. And Tom, you mentioned our guy, again, another Wisconsin player, great scorer, but we'll see. They are a deep team. Lutz brought in a lot of players. He brought in a lot of scorers and a lot of shooters. The question for them is going to be defense. interior defense and just defense overall. It's a guard-heavy team, and I see teams just possibly scoring at will against them. I can see some shootouts, but again, starting with Oklahoma State, or we're really starting with TCU, I don't think any of these teams from TCU down have a shot at the NCAAs.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it's year 2 of Coach Lutz, and I'm with you. I loved what he was able to do in year 1 with limited talent. Now he's got basically a completely new roster in year 2. Now he's stated that he purposefully did that to construct some a roster that could compete in the Big 12. And so, for me, even to get to number 12, it's really more earning my benefit of the doubt based on what he achieved in year 1. Now, if you look at the advanced analytics, Ken Palm's got them 11th in the Big 12. Bart Torvik's got them 9th in the Big 12. Metrics has them just like us at 12th. And then Evan Mia has them 11th. So, again, I think even the advanced analytics have got it right where we're at number 12. So we'll see. Hopefully they can get good enough where they're actually competing for a spot in March Madness. But we'll see. Now, with what little time we've got left, let's get into our kind of national top 8+1 national championship contenders for this season. Now, if I look at the grid that we've got, surprise, surprise, we've got Houston number 1, Purdue number 2, Duke number 3, Florida number 4, UConn number 5, St. John's number 6, Michigan number 7, and Kentucky number 8. And then the +1 is conference mate Texas Tech at this point. Now, if you look at the differences, I think I was the highest on UConn. I think, Tom, you're the highest on Michigan from the rest of us. And I think, Bill, did you get, I think you got almost the exact ranking there as well.
Yeah, no surprise.
No surprise. So maybe, Bill, why don't you give a little bit of highlights around kind of your top 8+1 and what fans should look out for coming into this season?
Yeah, I'll whip through this really quickly. Yeah. And I say no surprise. It's also, keep in mind, coming from the guy who typically finishes dead last in the NCAA bracket every year. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. I've got Purdue at number 2. They've got 4 starters back. Braden Smith, point guard, could be the player of the year. Fletcher Lawyer is a really, really good shooting guard, outstanding shooting guard. And then Kaufman Wren, their big guy inside. I don't think he played in their first game, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. They brought in a I think he's about 6'11", 7-foot center from either South or North Dakota, but supposed to be a very good player. So Purdue's going to be deep. Purdue's going to be good. And I've got them at 2. 3, I've got Florida. They've got 2 transfer portal guards, one from Princeton and then Boogie Bland from Arkansas. A lot of new players at Florida, although they do return 2 starters. And despite the loss at Arizona, again, game 1, big deal. I think they'll be right there at the end. I have Duke at 4, 0 starters returning. The number 1 rated recruiting class. They've got the Boozer twins coming in, and Cameron is the one who could end up being the number 1 overall pick, possibly playing in the middle for them. And he didn't look great against Texas last night, but again, game 1, big deal. St. John's, I've got at 5. Patino, they've got 1 starter back. Patino, not surprisingly, killed the transfer portal. Yeah. The thing about St. John's last year, great defense, really inconsistent, if not mediocre offense. He brought in a lot of shooters, a lot of offensive players. So, yeah, I've got them at 5. And my coworker, Stanley Phillip, St. John's grad would be happy to hear that. Six, I've got Michigan, and I'll just mention one guy. First of all, I like May. I think he's a really, really good coach. They I think had the top rated transfer. Yes, they had the top rated transfer player coming in, Yaxel Lendeberg.
We recruited him.
UAB.
Yeah, that's right. You tried.
He's going to be really good, and yeah, Michigan with 2 starters back is going to compete with Purdue for the Big Ten title. 7, I've got Kentucky. They, like I mentioned earlier, they or Kansas are the deepest teams in the country. 1 starter back, and this is Mark Pope's first. Really, it's his first recruiting class, full recruiting class. He came to Kentucky kind of late last year, and so he's brought in a ton of players. Almost all of them could play. So very deep team, and we'll see how things work out. But I think that they compete with Florida for the and Tennessee will be close for the SEC title. And then 8, I have UConn, and I'll just say that Danny Hurley hit the portal very well. They've got 3 starters back from a team that underachieved last year, and he's clearly fired up.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of complaining. I told you guys he complained ad nauseum about how his team was so bad in transition defense last year, not very good defensively in his opinion overall. I think that's a big focus for him this year, and so I've got them at number 8. They'll obviously be competing with St. John's. And then I guess my +1 would be Tech, and we've already talked about Tech, so I won't say anything else about them.
Okay. How about you, Toms? And specifically zeroing in on Michigan, you had them pretty high. Number 4.
Starting off, I had U of H as number 1 team in the country. 2, I had Duke. Duke is Duke. They're always going to have talent. They have a really, really good coach in John Shire. 3, I had Florida. Todd Golden, their head coach. That's who Kevin Young would like to be when he grows up, is Todd Golden. And 4, I have Michigan simply because Dusty May, like Bill said, really good coach. I like Dusty May. I actually think Michigan's going to take the Big Ten title away from Purdue this year.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, Purdue is Purdue. They, we beat them to go to the Elite 8, was
Elite
it?
8, yeah.
Yes.
So it's not like Purdue made it to the Final Four last year. Yeah,
you're right.
They got 4 starters.
But we hit a shot at the buzzer to beat them. They came closer to beating us than anyone other than Florida.
You know what, Bill? Closely counts the horseshoes, hand grenades, and drive-in movies.
Yeah, they played a damn good game, and they've got, like I said, they've got 4 starters back. I think they're going to be really good. But
it's not like I have.
I'll defer to you. I'll defer to you.
It's not like I have them at number 25. I got them at 5.
Yeah,
but I think,
right next to Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, and 6, I got Tech. We talked about Tech. UConn, because they got the best blankety-blank coach in the game.
That's right.
Another legend in his own mind. Although, admittedly, with back-to-back titles, he can't argue that too much.
I got Kansas at 8. I don't know why.
Because you love Kansas and self.
Right. Try and put some bad voodoo on them, rank them high.
Wow.
St. John's, because they have Rick Pitino, and they got some talent, and you take talent and you take Rick Pitino and you put them together, and you're going to have a heck of a team.
Yeah.
So that'd be, and then I had Kentucky right behind St. John's. So I probably should have scratched out Kansas at 8 and put Kentucky there, but hey, nobody's going to go back and watch this podcast again, so nobody's going to know, right?
That's right.
Tom, I'm just stunned with your newfound love affair with Kansas, and obviously Bill Self.
Well, like I said, I'm trying to put some negative voodoo on them.
Nice.
Because if I picked them 30, they probably finish, in the top 10. But
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go through my top 8 plus one. I'll just highlight the big difference I had was UConn. I had them number 3, which was higher than all of you guys. And obviously, you mentioned it, Tom. I mean, Hurley's told us he's the best freaking coach in college basketball, so of course,
in
right?
the game.
There you go. But in all seriousness, I think I actually like the team that he's constructed. He's got, some star players coming back. And I think what he's supplemented with in the class that he's got coming in reminds me of the makeup of the teams that he had during those championship runs. And he is a good coach. I'll give him credit where credit is due. Or at least I should put it this way. I love his coaching staff. I think he's got some great assistants.
Bill Murray's son.
Yeah, Bill Murray's son. So
offensive architect.
Yeah, so I've got them highlighted is pretty high, and I think we're gonna end it there. And so, wow, thanks for fans that have stuck it with us for this episode number 61 and our Big 12 and National Top 8+1 episode of the No Conference for Old Men podcast. Hope you all enjoyed it, and again, would really appreciate it if folks would follow, subscribe, and collect our podcast, depending on your podcast platform of choice. We are also available via the Republic of Football podcast feed from the folks at Dave Campbell's Texas Football as their only basketball-centric podcast. We're at the GoCoogs.com website for those that prefer to digest the content that way. We appreciate the continued support from all. Also, please give us a follow on our Twitter account, No Conference for Old Men. Thank you all again for listening, and please be on the lookout next week where we'll start to cover the actual games. So you can download and listen as the next episode drops. Take care, everyone. Go Cougs.